All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're taking a close look at a really innovative crypto project called Spark Assets and its unique take on economics. It's all built around one big question. In a world where you can create infinite digital things, what makes any single one of them truly valuable?
So let's start right there with that fundamental question. Is it about the tech, the hype, or is it something a lot more timeless? Well, in the digital world, one principle has proven itself over and over: scarcity. The simple idea that having less of something can actually make it worth more.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to look at the original blueprint for digital scarcity, Bitcoin. Then we'll dive into Spark Assets' unique twist on that idea, break down its core burn mechanism, and really get into why this all matters for investors. And finally, we'll zoom out and ask, is this the future of value?
To really get where we're going, we got to first understand where it all started. So let's talk about the simple yet incredibly powerful idea that kicked off this whole revolution.
This number, it's basically legendary in the crypto world: 21 million. Bitcoin was designed from day one with a hard-coded limit. There will only ever be 21 million coins. It's finite, it's predictable, and there are absolutely no exceptions.
And the thinking behind this is it's brilliant. By capping the supply, you automatically create a deflationary system. So as demand grows over time, the asset is naturally positioned to hold its value or even go up, especially when compared to currencies that can be printed endlessly. It's the bedrock principle.
Okay, so that's the foundation. That's the Bitcoin model. Now let's see how Spark Assets is building on top of it. They're taking that same core philosophy, but they're introducing a really fascinating evolution to the whole model.
At first glance, this looks super familiar, right? Spark Assets also has a hard cap, set just a little higher at 21.4 million. And that's a very deliberate choice. They're building on that same foundation of scarcity. But there's a huge twist.
Now this is where things get really interesting. Look at that second row. Both have a fixed cap, sure, but their supply dynamics, they're totally different. Bitcoin's supply is fixed and unchanging. It'll eventually just stop growing. Spark Assets, on the other hand, has a supply that's designed to progressively reduce. It actively shrinks.
So that kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if a hard cap is just chapter one? What if you could build a system where a scarce asset becomes even scarcer just by people using it?
And this is where we get to the real secret sauce, the burn mechanism. This is the engine that Spark Assets uses to create active, ongoing deflation right inside its own system.
So this is the key point to lock in. The total supply doesn't just hit a ceiling and stay there. No, it's actually designed to get smaller every single time someone uses the platform in a certain way. Think about that. The more it's used, the scarcer it gets.
Here's the play-by-play. It's actually pretty simple. First, a user decides to mint a private token or an NFT on the platform. To do that, they use a little bit of FIRO, which is a privacy-focused crypto. And then, this is the magic moment, that FIRO they just used is permanently burned, gone, vanished from circulation forever.
And what does this all lead to? Well, the source material calls it a compounding scarcity effect. Every transaction is like a tiny little chip away at the total supply, a process that's specifically designed to reward the people who hold on to the asset for the long term as it just gets rarer and rarer.
So this whole dual-layer strategy really accomplishes two huge things at once. First, you got that constant, progressive reduction of the supply. And second, because the whole process uses FIRO, a crypto built for privacy, it bakes a layer of confidentiality right into the core function of the whole ecosystem.
Okay, so the tech is cool, we get the mechanism, but what does this actually mean for an investor? Why should you care? Let's connect this whole model directly to value.
This brings us to a really key concept: utility-driven scarcity. It sounds a bit jargony, but the idea is actually simple. It's a model where an asset's scarcity isn't just some random rule. It's directly tied to its core function, its utility. This means that when people use the platform for what it's built for, they are inherently helping to make the asset scarcer and, in theory, more valuable.
So if you're looking at this from an investor's point of view, what are the big takeaways? Well, for one, you have a self-reinforcing cycle here. More use could lead to more scarcity. It's also a system that's literally built to reward a long-term holding strategy. And on top of all that, you get privacy as a core feature, not just some add-on. It's a very disciplined alternative to all the inflationary models out there.
So let's wrap this all up by zooming out.
Is this just a cool one-off experiment, or could we be looking at a whole new blueprint for how digital assets are designed in the future?
You know, it really feels like Spark Assets is betting on a much bigger trend. As the crypto market grows up, there's this increasing demand for assets that have sound, sustainable, and really disciplined economic models, moving beyond just hype and focusing on the fundamentals. And honestly, this quote from the source material just says it all. In a world where you can copy and paste anything infinitely, being able to prove that something is scarce isn't just a nice little feature. It is the absolute bedrock that value is built on.
Which leaves us with one final big question to think about. Are we going to see more models like this, where assets don't just have a fixed supply, but one that actively shrinks the more it gets used? It's a pretty compelling idea, and it could totally reshape how we all think about value in this new digital age.